justly. But in spite of that, we accept it. We hope and pray that the judiciary will contribute to the development of democracy in this country. And when the necessary time comes, we definitely approach the courts. Secondly, we are reaching out to our supporters precisely because we don't want them to take any spontaneous reaction and bring a serious challenge of stability in our country. We are doing this precisely because our supporters should know that we are following all due processes to bring justice. But it is also not only our responsibility, it is also the responsibility of the government and of Inec to do that which will keep this country stable, which will make it possible to have a democratic government. And it's largely on that note that we call on the president of the country to do the needful. Because if nothing is done, we may not be able to control our supporters. And it is very important that every agency puts its hands or heads together to make sure that we have a just and fair process, that all those who support us massively across the country will be convinced that justice is being done. On the issue of cost of elections, that has been adequately taken care of by the chairman of the Labour Party. Democracy may sound very expensive, it's certainly not cheap. But if you think it is expensive, try dictatorship and you will see the cost. We don't want INEC to turn itself into a dictatorship and destroy the very democracy we've suffered our labor to build over the last 20-something years. Thank you very much.
Please, the three chairmen deserve a round of applause. And again, to buttress the fact that what we have in Nigeria today is not election collation, that it is vote allocation. Please check now as you are here, Google, the result of President Muhammadu Buhari's polling units in 2019. APC 523, PDP 3. In 2022, the election that was done on Saturday, the result, 2023, sorry. In 2023, the election that was done on Saturday, the result of President Muhammadu Buhari's polling units, APC 523, PDP 3. Nobody died. Nobody become 18 years. No new registered voters. That is just one out of thousands of vote allocations, that was done. 2019, Muhammadu Buhari's polling unit, PDP 523, APC 523, PDP 3. In 2023, the same polling unit, APC 523, PDP 3. That's United Nations permanent seat. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to bring this to a wrap, but I want to invite the former governor of Imo State and the former deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, Sir Emeka Ihedioha, for a comment.
Thank you very much, chairman of political parties, distinguished leaders, gentlemen of the press. Our chairmen have spoken and I align myself completely with their position. However, speaking as an agent, someone asked a question there. Our parties nominated us as agents for a purpose. Our responsibilities is interrogation of the process. My duty as an agent, in my understanding, was not to go and copy results. We have agents in 36 states of the Federation and FCT. And we have agents in 774 local government areas across the country. And so our duty is to compare reports from them with what is being collected here. And if you noticed yesterday on live television, we made efforts to engage the chairman of Inec to hear us fairly as responsible Nigerians of high standing in the society. The chairman of Inec was very recalcitrant. He said we have no such responsibility. I mean, he didn't give us any such opportunity, and we frowned at it. Before we left, you would have noticed that agents of 15 political parties spoke one after the other, given our reason, appealing to the chairman of Inec to allow and consider the request we've made for interrogation of the results. And the chairman vehemently said no. And he said, we will not interrogate until they have concluded. And we smelt a rag. At the point of interlude, we walked up to him requesting for an interface. Again, he refused. In fact, when he came back after 3 hours of break, when they came back, the chairman reluctantly, yes, that was the break, and reluctantly allowed us to air our view before he continued collation. So we did everything we could to engage as responsible citizens. I think it's important you made it. Now, our chairman has stated very clearly, in fact, he said what I wanted to mention. Distinguished Nigerians, there is a lot of difference between dictatorship and democracy. And we know the yearnings and expectations of Nigerians. What they want is democracy. What they want is democracy. I'll take Imo State, for instance. Labour Party won in Imo. I wanted PDP to win, but Labour won overwhelmingly. And we were happy, we accepted the result as it was. But they began manipulations. And so those are the issues. The issue is that we want integrity of the process is important. We also believe in the fact that Professor Akubu had told us these are the processes as contained in the guidelines and Electoral Act, and we felt it's important for us to protect legitimacy of the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the three political parties, we want to appreciate the civil society and the media for this time spent. It is my pleasure to invite Valentine Ojibo to please wrap up.
Your Excellencies, let me once again thank the leadership of the three parties here, the PDP, Labour Party, and the ADC, and to thank all the press, the civil society for your attention. In concluding, before we rise for national anthem, let me just re-echo the last comment of the chairman of PDP, which is an appeal to President Muhammadu Buhari. Please save your legacy. Save your legacy. Do not allow any other person to destroy that legacy you've promised Nigerians. Do something. Hearken to the prayers we've made here today, and God will bless you and bless Nigeria. Can we rise for national anthem, please?
All right, we've just been live from Abuja, where we've witnessed a joint press briefing from the Labour Party, the People's Democratic Party, and the Africa Democratic Congress. And the main agenda was to call for fresh elections, a demand for the current election to be cancelled. And they expressed a vote of no confidence on the chairman of Inec and demanded that he step aside. It was noted that the views shared reflect they might only reflect the parties in the room. However, these parties, in their words, reflect the will of the majority of the Nigerian people. They said that they will not be waiting for the courts because this process is already hugely flawed and there's no need to wait. The intervention is required now. And they've also called on President Muhammadu Buhari to please intervene.
Now, so many important points you highlighted there, and so many words were being dished out there saying that, this is a point when we should be celebrating democracy, but now it looks as though lamentations are going on at the moment. You know, representatives of those three parties were saying that what it looks like is as though they're monitoring the dismay and travesty of democracy by Inec, and those were their words.
That's right. So, Mr. Shobowale, we have you in the building. I think there's so many pertinent questions from this particular press briefing, so many things to take away. I think I'll start from the end, where there was another call, another plea for President Muhammadu Buhari to intervene. What are the powers of the president constitutionally to involve in an ongoing election?
The president is a lame duck president. He's not supposed to intervene or interfere with the election. That's why he has set up a transition team to manage his departure and the evolution of a new government. So calling on the president is to ask the president to indulge in an illegality, and they should know better. If the president, even on his own, intervenes, you see these same parties that will come out and criticize him for intervening illegally in the election. So it's an extravagant call that has no meaning and it's not constitutional.
But Mr. Shobowale,
Yes.
you know, to be honest, if after listening to them and they said they had tried to engage the INEC chairman, you know, on at various times during the interlude, and then he was, you know, more or less being not unresponsive, and now they're seeing the process being, you know, going against the provisions of the Electoral Act according to them. What exactly would if the call being made to the INEC chairman is being relatively ignored according to what they're saying, then isn't this probably an option worth exploring?
They did not go to see the INEC chairman in secret. They spoke to him before our eyes.
No, but he's one of the party representatives.
He responded. The INEC chairman said the power that he has is that the process must be concluded before he can do the review they're asking for. So they are jumping the gun. Why don't they have the patience and generosity of mind to trust the INEC chairman that he will follow through on his saying?
What they cited, Mr. Shobowale,
Yes.
so what they cited was they were going by the provisions of the Act,
Yes.
and that as agents they're supposed to be able to, you know, challenge what they see, as opposed to just, you know, sitting back and letting what they perceive as, you know, not transparent play out.
But you see, the INEC chairman was very, very polite the way he handled the observations. In fact, with Dino Melano, if you were there, he was shouting at the top of his voice. And at the stage, the INEC chairman said, "You are getting disruptive. You are getting." Did he just dismiss them? He never knew. They didn't do as if they would call for a dissolution of, or a dismissal of the entire electoral process. They didn't have that frame of mind. They didn't show as if they have that frame of mind. So they are the one who are, you know, trying to create a surprise.
But Mr. Shobowale, I have to point out,
Yes.
what was said during the press conference was that
Yes.
they engaged the INEC chairman during the interlude, and that he was not responsive. Hence, he reluctantly allowed them to say what they had to say, what we watched yesterday. So we might have it looks like a lot has played out in the background. And let's not forget that one of the things that you mentioned during your analysis earlier on was that he seemed a bit complacent. So it doesn't really sound surprising based on the fact that we haven't seen the INEC chairman address Nigerians since the launch of the Collation Center, based on all the issues that have been outlined.
But he's seeing a process through. Put yourself in this position. He's seeing a process through. What they are complaining about is that that process should not even have happened if the technology had worked well. And by now, the result would have been floating in the air and everybody will know what is happening. but they participated in the process. This is not the first time we will have this sort of process in Nigeria. The Electoral Act made it mandatory that we should vote electronically. But what they seem to have done was what happened when the banks computerized and people put the manual system, the mechanized system in the computer. And of course, that should not shorten the time. There will not be speedy delivery. That is what is happening in Nigeria. It's not a strange thing.
Mr. Shobowale, thank you so much for your insights today and your analysis. Always valuable to us here. Rice News analyst Dayo Shobowale, thank you so much. We now take you to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where a Rise correspondent, Mary Chinda, is standing by to give us a situation report. Hello, Mary. Lead us into your situation in your location. Where are you and what's happening there?
Okay, so I am at the Inec Collation Center for the in the FCT, where the results for the senatorial elections is being expected. I mean, it's been a couple of days from the beginning of the collation till now. But now, out of the 6 area councils in the FCT, 5 of these results have been picked up from the area councils but have not been announced. Now that's because the AMAC area council result is still being awaited. Now I am saying this to dispel some of the information or the news out there that the result has been announced. According to the INEC officials who've spoken to Arise News, no result has been announced for the senatorial seat, and that's because they cannot announce, just 5, out of the 6. They have to wait to get the last one, which is remaining, and that is AMAC local government. Results from AMAC area council. Now the result from the Buhari area council has been received. Kwali area council has been received. Gwagwalada area council, Kuje, and of course Abaji. And AMAC is the only result that is, being awaited here. Journalists have been here since about 11 a.m. and this is what the hall now looks like. It's just a presence of security men. No one actually in sight, except for just a few of this INEC officials who are right over there, and they're waiting for the results to coming. So we do not know exactly when we're going to reconvene here again to be told what the actual results are.
All right, Mary Chinda, thank you so much for giving us the latest
updates. Of course,
updates.
we'll stand by.
Great stuff. We'll be hoping to get a whole lot more from you. Thank you so much, Mary. All right, so the conversation is ongoing. We do want to correct something, though. What Mr. Ayu, the chair of the PDP, said, this thing on social media that's been floating around that somehow the APC and LP votes from Gombe and Bauchi states are similar is not true. So we just want to put that out there. As far as the figures from INEC, the votes for the APC and the LP in Gombe states and in Bauchi, both of which I believe PDP won, are not similar. But yeah, so still data, the whole matter of data, and the beat rolls on, as they say.
For me, I think that watching this press conference is reminiscent of what this third force movement has always been about.
Great point. Yeah.
It felt good. I'm not going to deny that it felt good to see, people seemingly putting aside their own differences and
right,
coming together.
Yeah.
And even though it was pointed out that there are 18 political parties and only 3 were giving that conference, that's the ADC, the Labour Party, and the PDP. It was also made known that there was a walkout by 9 political parties yesterday, and 9 is significant. So it was, for me, even though that data might have been a mistake or an error, it was just wonderful to see that unity.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Nigerian spirit prevails in all of it. We're going to take a very quick breather, but don't you move. When we return, our Nigeria Decides 2023 coverage continues.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years from loss of habitat and prey and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Nigerians, the 2023 Nigeria General Elections is here. Ensure that you have your PVC and locate your polling unit as you set out to vote. At your polling unit, queue and present your PVC for accreditation by Inec. On receipt of the ballot paper, vote discreetly for the candidate of your choice. Remember, there are standards of behavior required of voters on election day, and violators may be arrested. No buying and selling of votes, no intimidation or coercion of voters, no canvassing for votes, shouting of party slogans, or display of party symbols at polling units. Nigerians, the time has come to exercise your franchise. Turn out in full and cast your vote for the candidate of your choice. This message is brought to you by Policy and Legal Advocacy Centre, PLAC, with support from the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch. For easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
This our landlord and his wife happy fight for Africa, sha. Chai.
No mind the man. With that in nose like our Market Square Junction.
Una don't start this now gossiping again, Abi. Okay, una met there at Kamata Community Square. They sell their votes to politicians for cool 5K. Una sit down here, the momo una safe. It's all right.
Omo, make we sef go collect our own cash.
Collect waiting. God forbid. So you want sell the next 4 years of your life for 5K, Abi? Well done. You sabi say this 5K now 4 naira per day for the next 4 years. Make una get sense now. Haba.
Na nonsense in they talk. Make month end the rich, make una no pay me my rent. Na that time I go see fire. Make una know they listen to people like this landlord. Election no be business. Now your civic duty to your country to help elect the correct leaders them. We go fit create better life for us and no go get future for our children. Make you no sell your vote. Cause if you sell your vote, now your future you don't sell be that. This message now from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the MacArthur Foundation.
Welcome back to the Nigeria Decides 2023. As political correspondent Victor Okai joins us now in the studio. You're very welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. It's all happening. I don't know where to begin. The press conference that we just saw from the opposition parties. What do you make of what's come out of there?
I'll start with the first press conference, the one that was held before now. I remember I said it was preemptive.
Yes.
And if that was preemptive, then obviously this one is, I don't know how to put it again, but what they're trying to do right now is checkmate the process. You know, the results they already have, I have a feeling that they're privy to certain information and they need to act very quickly. Whatever that information means and whatever it represents, we may not know until later. Figures are being bandied. Of course, we know that only Inec has a right to, but figures are being bandied right now, and insinuations are being made as to whether these figures were cooked because of similarities and all that. I think that this might hit up the polity a bit. We have to be very careful as we see the figures. But more importantly, I think that what they're doing is putting Inec
in a corner.
I would say the corner, put it on, what's that expression, on your toes?
Pressure.
No, on your toes. How do you put them on their toes?
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right expression now. The reason is that it's when you begin to do that, it's also a strategy. You know, when you begin to do that, then you are put on the defense. So you're no longer on the offensive, you're now on the defense. So you're constantly trying to make sure that, you know, because with that INEC has to fight back by bringing more accurate figures if the figures are not correct, because the pressure is being mounted right now on them by the general public. So they're setting an agenda and they're, you know, beginning to shape public opinion by what is happening. So that itself could be a strategy. And I think the reason INEC is largely responsible for this. The reason is that there was an inconsistency between the promise that the chairman made before the election and what we're seeing right now. Beavers was supposed to be the game changer. It should, by in and of itself, it's a game changer. But the manipulation and the excuses that have come with it, and these excuses for me, I do not, personally, I don't buy them at all. The reason is that INEC has been funded without questions. If there's any spoiled baby in terms of budget and release of funds, it's INEC. Whatever they ask for, they get, so that there's no excuse. And so for them to come at this stage and begin to tell us about malfunctions and all of that, I, as a person, I will not buy into it. So what is happening right now is piling a lot of pressure on INEC to do what it's supposed to do. The former president, we will come to that later, Olusegun Obasanjo, came out to speak yesterday. A lot of people are expressing concern. And what this is doing is creating some sort of public vote of no confidence on INEC as a body. And if you are in a position where you have to be, and like in this case, a judge, you know, they're the referees for this, INEC is the referee for this contest. If there is no confidence in you, if there's a vote of no confidence on you, then you have to recuse yourself from it. And that's what these parties are asking the INEC chairman to do.
And those were very, that was a very powerful statement that was made as well. You know, when they said that the integrity of the current chairman is in question and should probably step aside for another, since the process has basically been, it looks like it's a case of vote. In the words of Dino Malai, he says what's happening now is not vote collation, but vote allocation.
Yes.
You know, those were heavy, but I'm just wondering, are they stepping out of line in any way? Because according to them, they're challenging the process. I'm taking these words verbatim, they're challenging the process because it violates the law and provisions of the Electoral Act. INEC has violated provisions and they don't want to wait because the Electoral Act makes provisions for them to challenge the results as they're being presented to the public. So for those that are saying that they're not trusting the process, is the process even trustworthy?
Ordinarily, it should be. I mean, it's the only body we have for now to conduct elections. But what has happened is is simply this. INEC opened itself up. When its chairman was saying, or even at the state level, when you raise an objection, then they said, okay, wait and go to the court. The judiciary is the last hope for all of us. But even the judiciary has been less than stellar in its performance, especially in relation to electoral matters. There have been so many cases, I don't want to mention any here, but we do know that some abracadabra have happened. I mean, but if they decide, then it's final. They're like gods here. So that's why if you can't get it in the court, in the normal court, you go to the court of public opinion, and perhaps it might influence things. So what has happened is that by the very action or inaction to the actions of the parties, with their complaints and all that, these parties no longer have confidence that, and they don't want to wait. If things can be addressed before, while we're still collating figures, and at the point where they should be addressed, if these things can be addressed, they don't want to wait to get to the court.
Victor Kai, we have to interrupt you this very moment as we have to cross over to Abuja, where Festus Okoye is making an address.
Because we have almost 7 state collation officers for the presidential election around. We have around 4 of them that have landed at the airport and are on their way to the National Collation Center. And then we have around 5 that are already airborne. So we have decided as a commission to have a substantial number of the state collation officers for the presidential election, so that the moment we begin the collation, we can just go on a stretch and take a substantial number of those who have arrived. We just don't want to take 3 or 4 and then go on break and then come out and begin to take the rest. We just want to begin and go very, very far before we talk of any break. So I plead with you to still give us some time. We are definitely going to come out at 3:30 p.m. To begin the collation. Around 5 of them are ready, and as I was speaking now, I saw the resident electoral commissioner for Kogi State and the scope for Kogi State arrive. So most of them are just arriving. We are expecting Plateau. Anambra has gone to the airport, and so many of them are already on their way. So I crave your indulgence to give us up to 3:30 p.m. Before we resume a collation. Thank you so much.
Heard live from Abuja, we've just heard from Festus Okoye, the National Commission of Information of INEC, who is pleading to the public to kindly exercise patience as they have postponed the commencement of today's collation activities until 3:30, as he mentioned that there are a number of state collation officers who have just landed on the tarmac at the airport in Abuja. So as opposed to getting started with just a few who are present and taking another break and returning, they'd like to take one long stretch. And he has assured us that the National Collation Center will resume at 3:30. More delays, more delays, more delays. We're getting used to this, aren't we?
Well, in this case, he explained why the delay. So I guess it's okay. Instead of taking them one and then you go on another break, and then it can be a bit tiring. It might be good though for what we're doing. You know what I mean? So that in between we go there and come back and then probably do an analysis of you know,
Dr.
whatever it
Victor,
is.
Victor, can I just butt in while
Right.
to just add this to what you're saying? You know, it's good to see communication. And like you said, you know, this makes everybody feel comfortable. It
Yes.
gives us a sense of peace that,
Yes.
okay, now they're letting us in the loop.
Yes.
I remember yesterday, Ambassador Mark Green, excuse me, he's the head of the US Observers Mission, said,
Yes.
you don't need to have solutions and answers all the time. Sometimes just share what you're going through and put people at ease.
I
Do
agree
you
totally.
think that this is a sign of what you were talking about earlier, that INEC is listening to the pressure that they're being put under and are now starting to respond and act accordingly? Might we see some other reparatory behavior from them?
Okay. Now, let me put it this way. There's a reason the media is referred to as the fourth estate of the realm. You might not get the benefits of election and appointment in government and all that, but for democracy to work, the media has a part to play. Set agenda, and sometimes you also, what's the other role again? I'm trying to remember now, but whatever it is. So with what is happening right now, ordinarily without the media, people would not know what is happening. Why did they call a press conference? Why is it a press conference? Why didn't they just talk to their immediate community and all that? They have done that in order to be able to put pressure. And so we, and I say so as well here, as media, are putting them on their toes so that they can do the right thing. So the role is to make sure that those in government, is a watchdog role, to say, Big Brother is watching you. The world is watching you. That thing that you're doing, you better correct yourself, or else the court of public opinion will rise up against you. And everyone is mindful. Perception is even stronger than reality in most cases. The implications of, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, certainly.
So you have to, okay.
Yeah, the matter of perception, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the press
okay.
conference again, and for the opposition parties, so PDP, LP, ADC, and so on. Mr. Ayu, the chair
of PDP.
Of PDP. You were saying that we have to be careful not to heat up the polity.
Yes.
He said in that press conference that it may get to a point where, quote, we cannot control our party members or our followers. And I mean, is that a responsible thing to be saying at this point? Because it almost sounds like a veiled threat towards.
I was going to use the language. It's a subtle threat. It's veiled.
Yeah.
It's veiled. Yeah. It's like bending. Unfortunately, like I said, INEC called for it because you see, if there have been times in this country where people have seen the electoral body as being almost like the voice, I won't say of the people, but for the people.
Right.
You know, they have had confidence in those in charge and said, wow, you know, they're doing the right thing.
Like the Jega era, right?
Yes,
right,
yes,
right,
yes.
yeah.
So, and then they feel, okay, look, don't hound this. But even at some of the state levels, you find a situation where if there's harassment, they say, no, this guy is doing his job. Because they will see, permit me to mention a name now, a name that inspires confidence. Igini, Mike, for instance.
Okay.
Wherever he goes, he inspires confidence by virtue of his conduct over the years, you know? And so if you've been consistent and people can see in you integrity, it doesn't matter whether the opposition may not like you, but they will respect you.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because you are a voice for the people, not all, you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
So, and that's what I expect, even at the very top. So that wherever you go, people may not like the fact that they lost, but they will respect you because you did your job. And they will respect you too, although they may try to manipulate you, but they won't get you. You will refuse to compromise. They may not like you only for that fact, because you refuse to compromise, but you will have their respect. That's what I expect. But there seems to be a deficit of that right now because of the way the entire process has been managed. I'm not indicting any individual or even talking about the institution, but the management of the process has eroded confidence, the confidence of the general public. And that's why you see things like what Ayu is saying now. You know, so he's dropping those subtle threats, you know, or veiled threats and all that. And it's within, the only thing they must be careful about is not to incite. But it gets to a point where, if things are not addressed and be seen to be addressed, then,
then things start getting
yes,
right.
exactly.
Things start getting out of hand.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Victor. Now, when I saw that, brief update from Inec, it didn't come across to me, and you could, I stand corrected, but it came across as defiant to me, in the sense that there have been calls for the collation process to.
Are you talking about Okoye's last?
Yes. It's, he said that they were going to resume at 3:30. It shows that they're still going on with the collation process, even though there are calls for this to stop. It's been boycotted and whatnot. So it doesn't necessarily appear as though the issues that have been raised are being addressed. Because one thing the chairman did say when that collation center was launched on, I believe it was on Sunday, he said that matters that need to be addressed will be done in a separate location. So collation is still going on business as usual. And now there are even calls for a whole new election to take place based on what we saw with that joint press conference with the three political parties. Just wondering how you fuse those two together.
No. INEC is doing the responsible thing, if you excuse my putting it that way. Of
course.
If they respond to any and every criticism, so stop the election, this, that, then obviously there'll be chaos, because you will see blackmail coming from all sides. The proper thing to do is what they're doing. Carry on with the process, but also begin to address, or say if you have, whether they have an internal mechanism or they have someone, if they're going to set up a separate committee to deal with that, I think that should be going on while this process is going on. You cannot stop, because the results have been collated at the states, and they're coming to present them at the national level. And so Okoye, I don't think, was being defiant. What he was simply doing there was his job, which is communication. He's head of communication. That's what it is. Sorry, we were supposed to have started, but we have decided to shift it a bit. And the reason is we're expecting more people to come. We don't want these breaks, too many breaks in between. We won't take a long stretch of reports as they come in. I think it is the proper thing to do, and I don't think there's anything wrong. What will be wrong is if they do not keep their promise of looking into the issues that have been raised, then there could be a problem. Then what IU and Co have talked about will then become a major issue. Because if you complain, you deserve to be heard, but also that issue has to be addressed, because it represents the views of so many people.
Dr. Victor, thank you so much for that. We're going to come back to you, but let's get a feel for what's happening in the rest of the country currently. And on that note, returning officer for Rivers State presidential elections, Teddy Charles Adia, has adjourned the collation of the presidential result of Rivers State for alleged threat to life. Professor Adia, who is the Vice Chancellor of Federal University Otuoke, says he has received several calls and text messages from the public threatening to deal with him for alleged compromise. He says until the issues on the threat to his life are addressed, he will not continue. He called on all the security agencies to help protect his life. Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in charge of the presidential elections, CP Aderemi Adeoye, has condemned the threat to the life of the returning officer. Now, results from 21 out of 23 local government areas have been announced in the state.
I'm not involved in counting. I'm not involved in computation. Neither am I involved in validations of votes accruable to any political party. I carefully consider, therefore, I regret to observe that my life is being threatened because I've elected to serve our dear country and contribute my fair quota to the success of the ongoing election, which we all desire, wait for, and pray for successes. And by this address, I wish to alert security agencies, indeed the public, on the threat to my life, and to request for every necessary protection to enable me live and discharge my duties and obligations freely. In the meantime, I wish to adjoin the collations of these presidential elections for Rivers State to enable the resident electoral commissioner, Inec, of Rivers State, and indeed Inec, to address the foregoing and put my roles as scope in Rivers State to the perspective in the public.
The Nigerian Police Force condemns those threats and those behind it in its entirety, without reservation. It is condemnable that what hitherto has played out on social media is not translating to real life, and it is affecting the whole of our national interests. It is ridiculous to say the professor kept us waiting for 2-3 hours, when in actual fact, his own life is under threat. None of your lives are being threatened. And if he did not turn up at all, there is no court to charge him to, because self-preservation is the first law of nature. If he doesn't feel safe, he won't turn up. And what is anyone going to do about it? And from the brief he gave, he mentioned a particular political party.
All right, the Director General of the Katsina State PDP Atikuladi Campaign Organization, Mustafa Inuwa, is saying what transpired during the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections is different from the initial assurances given by Inec in conducting credible elections. During a press conference in Katsina, Mustafa says, contrary to measures taken by President Muhammadu Buhari towards arresting issues relating to vote buying, billions of naira was used for inducing voters across the state.
You have supply of sensitive election material on time, beavers in some cases, result sheets in some cases. Here in Katsina in particular, up to 12 midnight, many of the polling units did not have result sheets. I know how personally I struggled talking to people to ensure these result sheets were. And in many places, they brought less number of ballot papers for particular constituencies. And thugs hijacked materials in many places across the state and so on. You find that the whole exercise, especially in the rural areas, was characterized by a lot of malpractices, intimidation, harassment, which really put a lot of question on the credibility of the election. You see, you come to see some of these result sheets, TPEX was used to change the results in Daura area, in Kuripi, Musawa, and so many places. We have Mr. President promised no vote buying. As a result, this new currency was introduced. He appealed to Nigerians to endure the suffering because it is for a better Nigeria. We all supported it. But in his own state, Katsina State, in his own locality, I believe even in Dauraza thing was done, inducements was openly done. We said it here, the sum of 6.6 billion naira was approved and released for the purchase of rice, fertilizer, wrapper, including SEPA, to be used to induce voters. I believe it's an open secret. You have gone around, you have seen it yourself. This in Katsina becomes so clear, so obvious. Simple arithmetic. If you look at the vote, Katsina's state government was able to get for the presidential candidate, which is 482 votes, as declared. Just forget about the amount of money Tinubu gave and other sources. Just take this 6.6 billion. People's money was taken, and each of these votes cost Katsina taxpayer 22,087,136.92. Each of these votes, 6.6 billion. It was alleged that Tinubu sent 11 billion. That doesn't concern us.
All right, Dr. Oka, what do you make of that? I mean, in all this conversation that we've had, somehow the vote buying, which remember the Naira redesign and all the Naira cash scarcity is supposed to stop over, that seems to have been swept under the table because the elections have taken over. But there's still, as has been alleged in Katsina, 6 billion, attributed to vote buying. So is that still a factor here?
It is a factor. We cannot pretend that money didn't change hands at certain levels. I certainly saw some videos. I remember a particular video where, I'm not going to mention names here,
of course.
where in one of the northern states, a candidate, money was given to like a youth leader or so, and then quite substantial, and the person was thanking them, and then he also gave to some of his followers and all that. So even before the Naira redesign, they had allocated money to quite a number of people, that given money to quite a number of people. And so, so that was always there.
Yeah.
But, what was prevented was at the very location.
Yeah.
What has simply happened, and I'll tell you this because I know of a few cases of some people who every election cycle build 3 to 4 houses, and I kid you
Wow.
not. Yes. Every election cycle, they position themselves well. They have the right story to sell to candidates. They're the ones who come and tell you I have 1 million youths behind me and all that. And I wonder, if you have 1 million youths behind you, you should be running for president.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So, and then they manage, and they position themselves properly.
Wow.
They collect this money on behalf of people, and then, and then there are another category, the ones that specialize in getting crowds for, I mean, it's
For
a
rallies.
business.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
for
rallies.
rallies.
Yeah.
So it's a business. So, but what has simply happened here is that the money did not trickle down. It has been held now, at the very top. It's been held at the very top, So if you find a situation where the results didn't come out like it should, it's probably because it was stuck, at the very top. But yes, the concerns are genuine, but most of the parties are guilty.
Yeah.
Most of them are. And I read a report recently where they said, the parties were saved some trillions of naira because of the, the vote, because this is when they would have spent.
Right.
They would have spent. So the parties have been saved that, and many candidates, I dare say, have been saved that as well. But there are those who are hell-bent. It's in their character, it's in their nature. It's not about, for them, and this is why when they get in there, they don't care. They kick the ladder and they just continue with their lives. Every election cycle, first they impoverish you so that you are at that stage where even if you're given 10 naira, you are very grateful.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, God bless you, or whatever the case is, or whatever. So that's what is happening or playing out here. Money, most of them, let me just say that, they allocated money and they have spent, they have tried to, but the only difference now is that the money is stuck somewhere. And unfortunately, there's not going to be any return to where it came from, and nothing will trickle down because it's all done and dusted.
The first thing I'd like to ask, I haven't done my research yet, but when I look, when that press conference happened with the ADC, the Labour Party, and the PDP,